Baron Frankenstein's monster, he's been one of the most fearsome figures in many horror films, and yet he's also the Green Cross Code Man. Coming out from behind his many terrifying masks is one of the nicest men you'd ever wish to meet, David Prowse. When I told my children that I wasn't going to be talking to Douglas Fairbanks tonight, that instead I was going to be talking to you, they were absolutely thrilled. They said, Darth Vader? Actually, one of them said Darth Vader, and the other one said the Green Cross Man. Marvelous. Which do you prefer to be known as?
I like both, actually. And it's very interesting because when I became Darth Vader, or at least when the Star Wars film came out, I almost got the sack from the government because they thought that my image as Darth Vader would have a detrimental effect on my image as the Green Cross Code Man. But in fact, the reverse has been the case.
Well, I must say, you do look slightly different in both roles, to say the least. How did you get this amazing part in Star Wars?
Well, I'd had a long history of playing monsters.
Oh, I see.
I was playing Frankensteins, and I started at Casino Royale, then I went to The Horror of Frankenstein, then I went to Vampire Circus, then I finished that with doing a film called Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. And I think George Lucas had seen these pictures and wanted somebody very big and physical for the part in Star Wars. And when he saw me, I went up to the 20th Century Fox offices in London.
Right.
And he said, well, I've got two parts which I'd like you to consider. And I said, well, what are they? And he said, well, the first one's a character called Chewbacca. And I said, well, what's Chewbacca? And he said, well, it's like a hairy type gorilla that goes through the film on the side of the goodies. And I thought, well, I don't fancy that very much, George. And I said, what's the other one? And he said, well, the other one's a character called Darth Vader, who's the big villain of the film. And I said, well, no, don't say any more, George. I'll take the villain's part. And that's how it all came about.
Ah, that's very interesting. Were you in acting long before that?
I actually came into the business in 1965.
I heard a rumour about when you were doing your first acting part, that you were in a pub, or you were asked to go to a pub in the East End. Would you like to tell me about that?
Yeah, I was... the very first job I did in the business was a play called Don't Let Summer Come.
Yes.
And whilst I was doing the play, I only had the very last part of the play. I was the finale. I played the part of Death, and all I had to do was go in and pick up Kenneth Griffith, carry him off stage, and then the curtain used to come down, and that was the end of the production, you see. Yeah. So I used to have between 8 o'clock and 11 o'clock free. And one day my agent contacted me and said, look, can you... do you want a little job? You can earn yourself 20 quid or something like this. He said, all you have to do is go to a pub in the Whitechapel Road. And he said, when you get there, you have to ask for a chap called Ronnie Cray. So I had no idea who Ronnie Cray was. And I went to the pub in the Whitechapel Road, and it was full of enormous, great big fellas. And they were all about my size, you see. And Ronnie Cray came up to me and said, I'd like to introduce you to my brother, and introduced me to Reggie Cray.
And you had no idea?
I had no idea. No, I had no idea who they were. No, and I stayed the evening in the pub and sort of ate and drank to my heart's content. About 10:30, I said, well, I'm very sorry, Mr. Cray, but I've got to go. And he said, well, it's been very nice having you. Thank you very much for coming. And off I went. I went back to the play and did my little bit. And it turned out that they were trying to frighten somebody in the pub, and had got all these... and that was it.
Oh, my God, it sounds like a television serial. Yeah. You're doing a television serial soon, aren't you?
I am, actually. I'm in the middle of it now, actually. It's a television serial called The Rose Medallion.
And what's that going to be about?
It's about a private inquiry agent. It's a very seedy, run-down private inquiry agent, and his big, slow, West Country cousin, which is me.
Oh, I see.
And it's really all about the search for a buried treasure in Sardinia, and we're recreating Sardinia in and around Cheddar area.
You've been very busy lately, though, haven't you? Because as a Green Cross man, aren't you bringing out a book on safety for children?
That's right. We have I decided, one of the things I do is I tour all over Great Britain talking to kids about road safety. But it's like a drop in the ocean when I go out to these schools. I do 2 schools per town. I've been to 100 different cities in Great Britain so far. Wow. So there's only 200 schools out of, literally thousands in the country. So I decided I'd come out with a book on safety for kids. And it was originally intended as a road safety book, child pedestrian road safety. And then I decided to go into cycling proficiency as well. And then I invited a few of my friends in the business and to get involved. And we decided it was going to be a sort of a personality guide to road safety. And I was going to get some of my friends to dress up as policemen and policewomen and things like this, you see. And I then took it to a publisher, and the publisher said, well, why don't we go a bit further and go into safety in the home and safety at school? And I then, as I said, contacted all sorts of people, and we had a tremendous response, and we've now got people like Morecambe and Wise interested. They're in with me. Big Daddy. We're going to get involved. Henry Cooper, John Conti, Cliff Richard,
Oh, it
the
sounds
Goodies.
great.
It's going to be marvellous. And
Yeah,
it's coming
that
out in the
sounds
middle of
good.
October.
It's a strange combination, though, isn't it? I mean, on one side, the Green Cross Card Man, or Green Code Man,
yeah,
and on the other side, Darth Vader.
Yeah.
I think that we have a clip of the new Star Wars movie here.
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's called The Empire Strikes Back.
And I'm sure you're absolutely terrific in it.
Thank you.
And we're going to see it right now.
The Force is with you.
Oh, we've lost it.
We've lost it.
I see. Well, we'll see it again in a minute. You know what I wanted to ask you?
Yeah.
What is women's reaction to you? Because, I mean, here you are. How tall are you?
6'6".
And you've always... You were a champion, weren't you? You were a champion
I was
bodybuilder.
British heavyweight weightlifting champion.
So, I mean, is women's reaction, do they come on to you very strong, or do they kind of walk the other way when they see you? Or, I mean, what is their reaction?
No, it gets different reactions, actually. And the funniest reaction of all is the reaction to Darth Vader, because I get, I get an enormous amount of fan correspondence, primarily from America.
Yes.
And, in amongst all this correspondence, you get this really sort of pornographic content of women that write to you who I think have this big fixation about this big black character.
What, all in the black
All
cloak
in the
and
black
everything?
and the black leather and
Wow.
everything else.
Now, he does sound like somebody I'd write about.
Yeah.
But, I mean, let me ask you this. If you are so kind of identified with that kind of a character, would you ever like to play a kind of good character,
Well,
a nice guy?
I'd love to. Actually, the character that I'm playing now in Rose Medallion,
He's a
lovely character. Yeah, he's like a Lenny character from Mice and Men.
What's this rumour I heard about you going around the country wearing a kilt?
Well, I did this for a while, actually. I think around the country. I went around the world.
Round the world in a
Around the
kilt?
world in a kilt, yeah. I retired. I was British heavyweight champion, 62, 63, 64. And then I retired, and I really didn't know what to do with myself. And a friend of mine rang me up from Scotland and said, have you ever thought of doing Highland Games, you see? So I said, well, no, I haven't. He said, well, how would you like to come up to Scotland and learn to toss the caber? So I went up to toss the caber.
What's the caber?
Well, the caber is like a telegraph pole.
Oh.
And it's about 20...
I see.
It's about 20 feet long and can weigh anything between 100 pounds and 150 pounds. And the object of the exercise is to toss it for straightness. Lots of people think you have to toss it for distance, but you actually toss it for straightness. And in other words, it has to go over and fall on end and fall at what we call it 12 o'clock. And so I went up to Scotland and learned how to toss the caber. And then it became obvious that I wasn't going to earn any money at it, which was the intention originally, because I was going to try and get into the Highland Games. And I decided to save myself just for the one big event, which was the World Caber Tossing Championships, which they had at Hazelhead, or I think they still have actually, in Aberdeen. And as luck would have it, I went up there one year and came third in the World Championships. And straight from that, I got sponsored by McVitie's Biscuits.
Oh, I
and
see.
they decided, to
natural.
send me all
who
over
might
the world.
like you?
Yeah, they decided to send me all over the world, and I went
Wearing
to
your
places
kilt?
I went to places like Denmark, Sweden, Honolulu, San Francisco, New York, San Diego, back to San
Fantastic.
Francisco. Had
You
a
know what I'm
marvellous
going to
tour.
ask you, don't you?
Yeah.
What did you wear under your kilt?
Well, actually, it's compulsory.
What
To
is?
compete in the games.
It's compulsory, not two or
No,
two.
to compete in the games, you actually have to wear something under your kilt, or you have to wear some form of underpants or something like this under
Yes, I
your
mean,
kilt.
it could be
because the kilt
embarrassing, because you're a
flies out
very
when you
tall
go.
man. If you came across a very
Well,
short woman, I mean, you'd be in trouble.
I remember one year when I did compete at Hazelhead, it was absolutely, I don't know whether you've ever been to Aberdeen, but it's a freezing cold place.
Oh,
and
dear.
I wore tracksuit trousers underneath my kilt.
Rolled up,
and,
of course.
No, I had them right long down. And I was actually told by the officials, they sent 3 officials out to tell me to take my trousers off.
Oh, I love it.